Hey y'all, it's me Alex. Today I have a little video for y'all on all of my favorite makeup products that have been discontinued. I think that this is a fairly common experience for those of us who like doing makeup along, like this lines. Like we might have our staples, but some of the best eyeshadow palettes I've ever tried and continue to use to this day are things that you literally can't get anymore. So that's kind of the theme of today's video. It's not just eyeshadow palettes, it's primarily eyeshadow palettes because that's the kind of makeup that I like to consume the most and try the most of, but there are definitely some other discontinued favorites that I'm throwing into the ring as well. Before we get into that, hi, hello. If you don't know me, my name's Alex. I use they, them pronouns. I live in Baltimore, Maryland. I love makeup, animals, art, spooky stuff, all of that, wonderful things. I sometimes talk about my knitting and all of that. So if you like any of that, you should probably subscribe. If you don't, then keep watching and see if maybe there is something that you like. Anyway, let's talk about discontinued makeup that I kind of love and am really bummed that don't exist anymore. First one is the Anastasia Beverly Hills and Jackie Aina palette. As you can see, I've gotten quite a bit of use out of this. I was absolutely obsessed with this when it came out, and quite frankly, to this day, because I think it came out 4-ish years ago, even though I don't support Anastasia Beverly Hills anymore, whenever I want something that can be kind of work appropriate, but still interesting and colorful, and I know that whatever I do with it is going to turn out good, I go to this palette. For those of us who like to do more I would call it neutral but grungy, interesting type of looks, I feel like a lot of the palettes that we get that end up sort of in the mainstream end up being palettes that you really have to work hard with, and this is very much not the case. Even for me, I know that this is more catered towards deeper skin tones, but even though there aren't a lot of lighter transition shades, I found this incredibly easy to blend. The shimmers are shimming. The colors I feel blend really well with the neutrals and vice versa. Even the purple shades you don't have to do a whole lot of work on. I know that for the most part collaborations with influencers or doing IP, intellectual property collaborations for brands, generally speaking, those aren't going to last forever, and I fully understand and accept that. But I am kind of bummed that this wasn't a more permanent sort of situation, because genuinely I feel this looks so good. I've also used this on other people, friends and family who've asked me to do their makeup, and I feel like I've used this on a wide variety of people and it looks good on legitimately everyone. Yeah, so bummed that it doesn't exist anymore, but it is quite good. Speaking of Anastasia Beverly Hills, I used this in a recent video, and this one I actually understand why it didn't last. Why it didn't last until today, and that's a Subculture palette. Again, you can see I've gotten a lot of use out of it. For a brand that I don't like and support anymore, I have several ABH palettes that I have gotten extensive use out of and still use to this day. I think that if they had released this sort of color story today, I think people would have been a lot more amenable towards it. I understand that this is not everyone's cup of tea, but it absolutely is mine. And I got the first iteration, before it was reformulated, where there wasn't a whole lot of binder. And yeah, these shadows are super, super fallout heavy, but I love this for just sort of a grungy, interesting, it's very autumnal, but I like to wear autumnal-ish makeup all year round. So I think that this is quite lovely. I got this when it was released back in 2017. I literally remember going to Ulta with Casey and being hey, how's y'all's return policy if this ends up sucking? Fortunately, I ended up loving it. I know that I've had it for so long in my collection that I should probably work on actually using it up, and with a lack of binder, I feel I'll actually go through these shadows pretty well. But this one actually turned out to be super interesting. I feel if it had a better formula and had been released just a couple years later when people were really looking for something like this, it would have been a lot better, and maybe released from a different brand. Too. ABH could have had it all, but they did so much. They did so many. Okay, let's talk about the palette that I actually have on my eyes right now, which I would say is an iteration of Subculture from a different brand with a formula that is massively easier to work with. I mean, that's the Lime Crime Venus 2 palette. I've been using this one a lot recently too. I've just been into very grungy types of looks. So I have Mud, Boot, Pigeon, and Fly. And I keep on sticking my finger in them. But that's what I have on my eyes right now. I think I get why this one doesn't exist anymore. Like, the formula is fantastic. I feel like Lime Crime shadows, because I have this one, I have the Venus 3, and then my Venus 2 XL is supposed to be out for delivery tomorrow, which I'm going to film a whole video on that once I get it. I feel like my experience with Lime Crime shadows is that, like, they're not the ones that you go to if you want, like, the fancy indie multi-chrome type of fabulousness there, but all of this is extremely easy to blend, very pigmented but not too pigmented. The shimmers, you don't really have to use a glitter glue or anything like that. Like, I just used my normal eyeshadow primer with this, and I feel like it turned out pretty well. Like, it's nice and metallic, so I didn't have to do a whole lot of work there, because I feel like the shimmers in this are decently soft and layer pretty well, but they don't need a lot of help to stick to your eyes, which is really nice. Now, I know that this only got discontinued like last year. I guess like it was around for a really, really long time before it got discontinued. So I understand, like, Lime Crime is in a place where it seems like they're revamping a whole bunch of things. They discontinued their original Venus palette too, which I also understand. Like, I always thought that one was cute, but I have the ABH Modern Renaissance palette. I got that when it came out, so I don't necessarily feel the need to own both. I feel like if you have one, you don't need the other. But this one was a little bit more unique to my collection. And I really like the formula. I feel like if they keep this formula and they just like actually come up with some interesting color stories, they could be killing the eyeshadow game. They have a lot of products that I see as like very good staples. Like, I love their lipsticks. The couple of eyeshadow palettes that I have from them are nice. Their hair dye is fabulous. So they have a lot of things that I think are very staples. You know, that I think would work really well as staples within my collection, and do work very well as staples within my collection. But I feel like they're in a weird space where they're trying to like do a whole bunch of new things all at once. Like, that's not to say that that's a bad thing at all. I think everyone's trying to adapt to an ever-changing capitalistic marketplace. Like, no shame there. But I would just really like for them to come out with, like, I don't know what number Venuses we're on right now. But another Venus palette, you know, just give it a cute 8 shades, you know, give us that nice, easy shimmer formula, give us a good, colorful matte that isn't too hard to blend. You know, if they just did something like that again, that'll make my heart really happy. So let's talk about another makeup brand that I really love, but they have a lot of things that no longer exist anymore. Some of them I understand why. Let's get the first one, easiest one out of the way. This is from Melt Cosmetics, their Beetlejuice palettes. Freaking love these. I really love the whole collection, including like the lipsticks in there. I didn't care as much for like the glitter lips, but their lipsticks, and they were really nice and good, solid. We have the Waiting Room palette, which, how do I show you this without, there you go. But it's like grays and then reds, and it's nice and it's good. But then my favorite is the Recently Deceased, which, like, green and purple are my favorite colors, especially these specific kinds of greens and purples. So these are lovely, and the formula I feel like is really nice. I feel like even though some of the shades, especially in the mattes in both of these, could lean very much like, what's actually the difference between them? I feel like they blend really, really nicely. I know that sometimes folks have trouble with Melt's formula, and I fully respect that. I understand why you have trouble with Melt's formula. I feel like those were definitely more on the easy, effortless end of Melt's formulas there. I know that they got discontinued just because it was their Beetlejuice collaboration. Most collaborations don't end up being permanent in makeup lines, and that's okay. So not much commentary on that at all, other than I really like these. If they ever decided to bring it back, I wouldn't be upset. We have one eyeshadow palette that I also fully understand why you can't get it anymore, and that's their Mary Jane palette. I love this one. This is like this and the Gemini are my go-to work makeup palettes, and I feel like this could have been really great, but the shimmer formula is very difficult to work with. The mattes are great. The mattes are super easy and lovely, but as you can probably tell, there's only 4 mattes and 6 shimmers, and when the dominant formula is the one that is more difficult to work with, you're probably not going to do super well, because I feel like the shimmers in this are either like too soft or too flaky, or way too hard to like even get any semblance of pigment out of it. Either way, it requires a lot of effort and I'm not personally mad about it. I knew what I was getting into when I bought this, that this was going to be a more difficult palette to work with, but I feel like the payoff I've gotten from it and will continue to get from it is worth it. But I get why this one doesn't exist anymore. If they like re-release this but in like the formula that they have for, you know, the Gemini or like the shimmers from the Melt and Beetlejuice collection, I think this would do a lot better. Or even if they just increase the number of mattes in this palette, because I feel like cool tones are also kind of coming more back in style. Maybe it's just the era that I started in beauty YouTube, but we spent way too damn long in the warm copper smoky eye cut crease era. Like, I've been waiting for this shit. This is a personal favorite of mine, but I recognize that it's kind of a terrible product. This last eyeshadow palette from Melt, I'm really bummed that I saw that this is discontinued. Basically what I did for my research for this video, I went through like my Melt makeup collection and compared it to what's like currently available on their site. But anyway, this one, I'm just really bummed that it's discontinued. I don't need to rebuy eyeshadow palettes. I'm more forgiving of eyeshadow palettes being discontinued. All of that to say, She's in Parties has been discontinued. This one, I feel like has the best formula out of all of the Melt palettes that I own. It has such a nice range of shades. It's not like too big. There aren't really like any shade repeats in my opinion. Like, it's just so pretty. I love purple. I'm like kind of mourning this one a little bit. I don't think I'm ever gonna need to rebuy this because the pan size is big enough to last me until like I die. How can you look at this and say that you shouldn't continue making it? Look at her and tell her that she shouldn't exist. You heartless person. Anyway, I'm super sad about this. Everyone go tweet at Melt to bring back She's in Parties. I mean, granted, probably if a brand discontinues something, it's because it's not selling as much. But I don't care. This one's good. This was good and I'm sad for her. Okay, let's move away from eyeshadow palettes now. I have a bone to pick with a specific brand because in the year of my I'm too depressed to film or wear or consume much makeup, NYX discontinued 2 of my staple makeup products. They're not eyeshadow palettes. No, they're 2 specific things that I am extremely salty and will forever hold a grudge about. Number 1, they discontinued their HD eyeshadow primer, the one I had used for literal years. I was probably the one keeping that one alive, and that's probably why they freaking discontinued it, is because I wasn't wearing enough makeup, so I wasn't consuming it enough. But oh my god, that was the literal perfect $7 dupe for the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer. I currently use the Milani eyeshadow primer, and it's fine, but it is not the NYX HD eyeshadow primer. You can tell the difference, or at least I can. The NYX one, nice and smooth, really easy application, literally would never crease on my eyes. Milani, it does. Like, eventually all eyeshadow comes to crease on this. It might last longer than if I wasn't wearing eyeshadow primer, but it still creases. And that's a freaking problem for me. I don't know if they've made one to replace it, because I haven't seen anything similar. I don't see anything that compares. I'm not going back to spending $20 on an eyeshadow primer from Urban Decay, but I don't think anything is going to match up, and I'm salty about that. The other thing I'm salty about from NYX, they discontinued their Bear With Me Tinted Skin Veil. I was so hyped when that product dropped because they had basically used it as a replacement for their BB cream, which my mom and I both really loved, but we didn't want to continue buying it because there were only 3 shades and I was the darkest one. Me, Ghostface, the darkest shade. So when I saw that they released their tinted skin veil with a much wider shade range, great, fabulous. I'll be able to buy this. It was basically the same thing. It was super, super easy to just like blend into my skin and like look super natural, and I didn't have to do much to my face with it. I didn't have to powder it. I didn't even have to use a setting spray if I didn't want to. And then they discontinued it all because I knew makeup. I have found other face products that I do like, but none of them are as easy as the Bear With Me Tinted Skin Veil. NYX is out to get me specifically. Last 2 products. One, I'm bummed because this brand doesn't even exist anymore. And this is the Noon Face Palette from the Midas Cosmetics and Neon MUA collection. I really should have bought this again before they like shut down. I understand COVID and all of that really took out a lot of small indie brands, and I genuinely do understand like why that happened. I'm not upset in the way that I am with NYX, but I'm not someone who tries like a lot of different like blush, bronzer, highlighter type of things. I have a lot of redness in my skin, so I feel like when I find something, I just kind of stick with it, because there are only so many iterations of like blush, bronzer, highlight combos that actually look good on me. I should have at least bought one more of these, because holy crap. This is literally the first blush I've ever panned in my entire life, and I've been wearing makeup since I was 13. I'm 27 now. I don't know what they put in this blush, but it's magical. It's beautiful. I'm not wearing it today because I wanted to use one of my liquid blushes, but I should have added this. That would have been cute. I feel like a lot of face products, when I try and find them for my skin tone, the blush and bronzer and contour will be good, but the highlight will be too dark, or like the highlight and blush will be a good shade, but the bronzer and contour will be way too dark for me, or, you know, some sort of combination like that. And this was kind of perfect for my skin tone. I like having something that I can just pick out one thing and that's just gonna be it for the rest of my life. I'm not mad, I'm sad. I'm sad about this one. Y'all know I'm a Melt Cosmetics lipstick stan if you've been on my channel for any length of time. And a few years ago they reformulated, so I bought a bunch of the ones from like their old formula. So I have like 6 or 7 Melt lipsticks that I got for like $5 a pop. I know that the Melt lipstick formula is not for everyone. It is very, very, very matte. But I personally really like that, because sometimes I want to wear a dark lipstick, but I don't want to wear a liquid lipstick. But most like tube lipsticks, I don't trust to do a dark lipstick particularly well, because I feel like it moves around a whole bunch and that's not particularly fun. So I like having something that's like super, super matte, and I feel like I can eat with and all of that good stuff without having to deal with the crumblies and crusties that a liquid lipstick would do. Anyway, that's why I like the Melt formula. And they brought like a lot of their shades over to the new formula, which I think is good, except for my literal 2 favorites from the old formula. The one I'm wearing right now, which is Cherried, cute, cute, and then Mum, which is this beautiful orangey rusty brown. Honestly, that would have looked cute with this one too. These are kind of my go-to everyday, like when I want to wear something a little bit more oomph than just like a neutral nudie type lip. I find that these to be very good for that, because I also have the shade Frisky for when I do actually want to wear like a nude lipstick, but that one is in the new formula, so I don't get to be salty about it. I haven't actually tried Melt's new formula yet, just because I haven't felt the need to. I think maybe at their next sale I might try and pick up a couple, because there are some shades that I am genuinely interested in. And I think part of what they did with the new like packaging, where they like did the fun little engravings on the side of lipstick, I do think that's like really pretty. And I would also really like to see what the bottoms of their lipsticks look like, because my one complaint about these, they're just like black tubes with black stickers on them with a name, so you have to figure out like which name correlates to which color, which now by the time I've used all of these that I have, I now get. But when you buy a whole bunch at once, you're like, okay, I know that I have an orangey nude in here somewhere, but I don't know which name it is, and you have to go through all of them, and I didn't care much for that. So I'm wondering if they might have changed that in the new formula. Maybe that would be super nice. I'm not holding out much hope, but we'll see. So those are kind of my discontinued makeup favorites. I'm sure that there are others out there, but those are the main ones, you know, that I end up using on a regular basis. There are lots of other discontinued makeup products that I love and I still use, but these are the ones that I definitely use the most frequently. So let me know down below if there's any discontinued makeup products that you really wish that they would bring back, anything that particularly comes to mind. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more videos from me, and I'll see y'all in my next one. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Bye!